Hello, Pak Zul, and welcome to our presentation. We are excited to share our research with you on a topic that's incredibly relevant today, which is factor affecting attention span considering media consumption habit and demographic. First of all, let's us introduce ourselves. My name is Aliska Zarasharani.
My name is Tabina Najwa.
My name is Fahira Moza.
My name is Nisrina Tisasari.
And my name is Kiara Shaka.
Okay. Moving on to the background. So, in today's digital world, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok have transformed media consumption, raising concern about their impact on attention span. Our study explores how factors such as age, screen time, and app switching frequency influence attention span. We focus on two key questions, which are how does media consumption habit affect attention span, and how does demographic affect attention span? Using linear regression, we analyze the relationship between these factors to understand how digital media use is shaping cognitive abilities. Next slide. So for the literature review, attention span is basically the ability to focus on a task without getting distracted. And shorter attention span means the inability to stay focused, often caused by consuming fast-paced media and digital content. And for media consumption habit is how people engage with traditional and digital media influenced by demographic and technological advancement, and these habits shape how individuals access and enjoy content like music, film, and social media, demonstrating the interaction between society and technology and preference. And for demographic is the statistical data about population. This analysis helps businesses target product and services effectively as different demographic groups such as millennials or baby boomers exhibit distinct behavior and preferences. Next slide. So for next slide is methodology and multiple linear regression is a statistical technique used to model the relationship between one dependent variable and multiple independent variable, assuming a linear relationship between them. It extends simple linear regression by including multiple predictors, and our multiple linear regression model is presented as below. And Y is attention span, X1 is screen time, X2 is preferred platform, X3 is age, X4 is media content, X5 is media form, X6 is switching app frequency, and beta 0 is Y-intercept, and the last one is residual.
So here's our research flow. And we start by introduction and background of the research, and then we define the scope, formulation, and objective of the research, and then we conduct a literature review, and then we create and distribute our questionnaire. And if we already collect the data from the questionnaire, we do the data cleaning, visualization, and then we do the classical assumption test. And if the data meets the criteria, we can do the multiple regression test. Otherwise, if it's not, we need to do the data transformation and then the classical assumption test again. And then after that, we done the multiple regression test, we make the conclusion. Next slide. So the data collection method that we use is by Google Form with the intended sample of 120 respondents with the sample of ratio of 20/1. However, we managed to collect 134 respondents. And the dependent variable in the study is attention span. Meanwhile, the independent variables are screen time, preferred platform, age, median content, media form, and switching app frequency. Next. In the data transformation step, we transform the non-metric data into the metric data. For the nominal data, we convert into the dummy variable, and for the interval data, we represent it numerically by selecting the midpoint of each interval. Next. The next step is data processing. The first step of data processing is data cleaning. So it is a essential step by ensuring the data set is free from errors. And this process involves identifying issues from the missing value, duplicated data, and outliers. So the missing value occurs when some entries in the data set are not captured due to insufficient data collecting, while the duplicated data occurs when the same entity is represented multiple times in the data set. An outlier is when the data point that deviates significantly from the other observation. Next.
Next is the assumption in multiple linear regression analysis. So this test is conducted to determine whether an ordinary least squares or OLS linear regression model has classical assumption problems or not. So we conducted 5 types of tests such as linearity, normality, and independence of error terms, multicollinearity, and homoscedasticity. And here are the assumptions for each test. Next. Next is the results and analysis for data cleaning result. So for the first one is missing values. Missing values are inaccurate data that makes the information available in the data set. So from the task that we conducted, we get the result is there are no missing values in all variables in the data set. And for the duplicated data is the phenomenon of two or more data representing the same entity. So for the task result that there is no duplicated data on all variables in the data set. Next. So next is the outliers. So the outliers is data points that are significantly different from the majority of the population or have extreme values. So after we conduct the task, we got from the outlier test that on several variables such as attention span, age, frequency of switching application, and screening time, there is only one variable that has outliers, namely the age variable with only have one outlier found. Next. Next is the linearity test is to ascertain whether the independent variables X and the independent variable Y have a linear relationship. So in the linearity test, we conduct Ramsey regression equation specification error test or reset is widely used to identify the specification errors in regression models and to check whether the functional form of the regression model is correctly specified. So we use two hypotheses. The null hypothesis is the model is linear, and for the alternative hypothesis is the model is nonlinear. And for the result of the test, that we get p-value is 0.1849, which is greater than the significance level, and therefore we accept the null hypothesis, which meaning that the model is linear and there is no significant evidence of nonlinearity or specification errors in the model. Next.
Okay, moving on to the next assumption test. It is homoscedasticity. So therefore, we have to know what is the definition of each of them. For the heteroscedasticity, it is where the residual variance varies occurs in many real-world situations. Meanwhile, homoscedasticity, having a constant variance at all independent variable levels. In this test, we're using the Pagan test, where if the test rejects the null hypothesis, which the null hypothesis is the residuals are homoscedastic, it indicates that the presence of heteroscedasticity. And for the alternative hypothesis, it is the residuals are heteroscedastic. Therefore, after we conduct this test, we have the results in 0.612, which is more than 0.05. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So we can conclude that the model's residuals exhibit the homoscedasticity. Next, we are conducted the independence test. So it is conducted to perform and evaluate whether there is a correlation between variables. We use the Durbin-Watson test, which is it used to detect the existence of autocorrelation in the residuals of regressions. And the test results is 101.95, which is approaching 2. And we can conclude that there is no significant autocorrelation in the residuals. Next, we're moving on to the normality test. It is conducted to assess whether the residuals is normally distributed or not. And here we are using two approach. There are Shapiro-Wilk and also Anderson-Darling tests. Where two of them is indicating that the null hypothesis of normality cannot be rejected. So we can conclude that the data is normally distributed. Next, it is the multicollinearity test. It occurs when two or more independent variables are highly correlated. We can see the results based on the VIF. And we can see from the table that all the variables is below 5 for the VIF. So there is no significant multicollinearity among the independent variables.
Okay, next is the multiple linear regression result. For the interpretation, from the coefficient, we can build the regression equation model as seen in the box over here. And then with the approach of the t-test, we can conclude each of variables decision whether to accept or reject. So we can see that in the table, almost all of the variables are accepted, with the exception of variable x1 and x3, which is rejected because of the t-test is below 0.05. So this means that the variables that is rejected have no significant effect, while the variables that are accepted have a significant effect. Next. Next is the multiple linear regression validation. So we validate the multiple linear regression by looking at the R-squared from the OLS regression results, but that is not sufficient enough. So we also did the train test split test to further validate the model and to ensure that the model is well-defined and has good generalization to new data. So for the result of the OS regression test, we can see that the R-squared is 0.914. That indicates that 91.4 of the variance in the dependent variable can be predicted by the independent variables. And then we see the train test split test results. So the train test split test result test is we divided the data into 70 and 30% respectively for the training set and the test set. So we can see that the R-squared for the training set is 0.91, which is quite high. That means that 91.7 of the dependent variable can be predicted by the independent variable, and that the model fits well. And for the test set is 0.89. It is also quite high and quite close to the training set, and that means that the model generalizes well to unseen data. Next. Okay, so for our conclusion and recommendations, we find several key findings from our study. First one is the impact of media consumption on attention. So high screen time and frequent app switching can significantly reduce attention span, leading to cognitive overload. And second is the effect of short media. So short videos or text encourage frequent switching that further impairing the ability to focus and maintain attention. Third one is demographic factors. So in our study, media habits are the stronger predictor, but demographic factors, particularly age, still play a smaller role in attention span too. And the fourth one is TikTok's role. So TikTok has fast-paced, highly stimulating content that has an almost significant impact based on our result. So TikToks can lower attention span and suggest platform-specific effects. And the last one is cognitive health and media use. So increasing awareness about the cognitive effects of prolonged media consumption is essential, especially for younger users. And our recommendation for this study is to encourage mindful media use by limiting screen time, taking breaks, and reducing switching. And platforms should promote longer engagement with content, and educational programs can teach media balancing to users, particularly younger users. Next. And this is our questionnaire that we did. This is our results of the multiple linear regression. And here are the link to the sheets of that contains our data of the questionnaire. That is all from us. Thank you, Pak Zul, for watching and listening. Have a good day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.